The tech heiress thought he was just a poor delivery driver. Please rate this story from 1 to 10. Tell us where you are watching from, and share if you have a similar experience. Subscribe for new stories every day. Let's begin. Victoria Chen stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse apartment. The city sprawled below her like a glittering carpet of lights. She should have felt on top of the world. Instead, she felt completely empty. Her phone buzzed with another text from Elena reminding her about tomorrow's charity gala. Victoria sighed and tossed the phone onto the white leather sofa. 28 years old, and she had everything money could buy, except a reason to care about any of it. Her father, Gregory Chen, was one of the most powerful CEOs in the country. His technology company dominated the market. Victoria had grown up in boardrooms and five-star hotels. She had attended the best schools and knew all the right people. But somewhere along the way, she had lost herself. Every relationship she had was transactional. Every friendship felt rehearsed. She was tired of playing the role of the perfect daughter.
Is this really all there is?
She whispered to the empty room. The apartment was immaculate. Not a single item out of place. It looked like a magazine spread. Cold and impersonal. Victoria walked to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. It was nearly empty. She never cooked. There was no point when she ate at expensive restaurants every night. Tonight, though, she did not want to see anyone. She pulled out her phone and opened a food delivery app. 30 minutes later, her doorbell rang. Victoria opened the door expecting a teenager in a uniform. Instead, she found a man in his early 30s. He wore a simple delivery jacket and carried 2 bags of food. But there was something different about him. His eyes were bright, and he smiled like he actually meant it.
Good evening. Order for Victoria.
That's me. Thank you.
She reached for the bags, but he held them for a moment longer than necessary.
This is a lot of food for one person. Having a party.
No, just me. I like having options.
He laughed. It was a genuine laugh that made her pause.
Smart thinking. Nothing worse than regretting your food choice at 9 p.m.
Exactly.
She found herself smiling back. When was the last time someone had made her smile without trying?
Enjoy your meal.
He handed her the bags and turned to leave. Victoria watched him walk down the hallway. There was something about him that felt real. Something she had not encountered in years. She closed the door and set the food on the counter. Then she did something impulsive. She grabbed her phone and left a generous tip with a note. Thank you for the smile. 3 days later, Victoria ordered delivery again. She told herself it was because she was tired. But deep down she hoped the same driver would show up. When her doorbell rang, she practically ran to answer it. It was him. Ryan stood there with another bag of food. This time, he was grinning.
You again. Starting to think you really like this restaurant.
Their pasta is amazing. What can I say?
He nodded toward her apartment.
Must be nice having a view like that.
It's just a view.
Just a view. Most people would kill for just a view like that.
There was no judgment in his voice. Just honest observation. Victoria felt her guard drop slightly.
Do you want to see it?
The words came out before she could stop them. Ryan looked surprised.
I'm on the clock. But maybe another time.
Another time then.
Over the next 2 weeks, Victoria ordered delivery 5 more times. Each time Ryan showed up, they talked a little longer. She learned he worked multiple jobs to make ends meet. He learned she worked in her father's company, but was not happy there. Their conversations were easy and unforced. Victoria found herself looking forward to those brief moments at her doorway. They were the only genuine interactions she had. One evening, Ryan arrived with her food just as a thunderstorm started. Rain pounded against the windows, and lightning lit up the sky. Victoria opened the door and saw him standing there soaked through.
Oh my God, come in. You're drenched.
I'll drip all over your floor.
I don't care. Come in.
He hesitated, then stepped inside. Victoria grabbed towels from the bathroom and handed them to him. He dried his face and hair. Water dripped from his jacket onto the marble floor. Victoria realized this was the first time she had invited anyone inside in months, and he was a delivery driver she barely knew.
Let me make you some coffee. You must be freezing.
I really should get back. My shift isn't over.
Stay for 10 minutes. Please.
Something in her voice made him agree. They sat in her living room with mugs of hot coffee. The storm raged outside, but inside it felt oddly peaceful. Ryan looked around at the pristine apartment.
This place is beautiful, but it doesn't look lived in.
What do you mean?
No pictures on the walls. No books lying around. No mess. It's like a hotel room.
Victoria looked around and realized he was right. She had lived here for 3 years, but it felt temporary. Nothing about it reflected who she was. Maybe because she did not know who she was anymore.
I guess I've never thought about it. I'm not home much.
Where do you go?
Work mostly. Events. Dinners. Thing I'm supposed to attend.
Sounds exhausting.
It is.
They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Ryan's phone buzzed. He checked it and stood up.
I really need to go. My coordinator is asking where I am.
Of course. Thank you for staying.
He smiled and headed for the door. Then he turned back.
You know what you need. You need to do something just for yourself. Something that has nothing to do with work or obligations.
Like what?
Anything. Take a class. Go somewhere you've never been. Eat at a dive bar instead of a 5-star restaurant.
Victoria laughed.
A dive bar.
Best food in the city is in dive bars. Trust me.
After he left, Victoria sat on her sofa, thinking about his words. When was the last time she had done anything spontaneous? Anything real? She pulled out her phone and did something she had never done before. She texted Ryan using the number from the delivery app. Would you show me one of those dive bars? 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, his response came through. Are you serious?
Completely serious.
Okay. But you have to promise not to judge the neighborhood.
I promise.
2 days later, Victoria found herself in a part of the city she had never visited. The streets were narrow, and the buildings were old. Ryan waited for her outside a small restaurant with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign. He looked different in regular clothes. More relaxed somehow.
You actually came. I thought you might change your mind.
I almost did. But then I decided to trust you.
They went inside, and Victoria was hit by the smell of frying garlic and fresh bread. The place was packed with people laughing and talking. No one looked at her twice. No one cared who her father was. It was liberating. They squeezed into a small booth near the back. Ryan ordered for both of them. When the food arrived, Victoria took one bite, and her eyes widened.
This is incredible.
Told you. Best food in the city.
They talked for hours about everything and nothing. Victoria learned Ryan had grown up in this neighborhood. He had worked his way through college doing odd jobs. Now, he was trying to save money to start his own business. He asked about her life, and she found herself being more honest than she had been with anyone.
My father built an empire. Everyone expects me to be just like him. But I don't have his drive. I don't have his vision. I'm just going through the motions.
Maybe you're looking in the wrong place.
What do you mean?
Maybe your vision is different from his. That doesn't make it less valuable.
Victoria felt something shift inside her. No one had ever suggested she might have her own path. Everyone just assumed she would follow in her father's footsteps. As they left the restaurant, Ryan walked her to her car. She had parked it 3 blocks away because there was no space closer. The streets were quiet now. Just the distant sound of traffic and a dog barking somewhere.
Thank you for tonight. I needed this.
Anytime. Seriously.
They stood there for a moment. Victoria realized she did not want the night to end. She wanted to ask him 100 more questions. She wanted to know everything about him.
Can we do this again?
I'd like that.
Over the next month, Victoria and Ryan met regularly. They explored different parts of the city, places Victoria had never been despite living there her whole life. They went to street markets and secondhand bookstores. They ate at food trucks and watched street performers. With Ryan, everything felt new and exciting. Victoria started to feel like herself again. Or maybe she was discovering herself for the first time. But she knew she was living on borrowed time. Eventually her father would find out. Eventually she would have to face the reality of who she was. And who Ryan was. They came from completely different worlds. She just had not realized how different, until one evening, when Elena called her in a panic. Victoria was at Ryan's small apartment. It was a studio in an old building. Nothing like her penthouse. But it felt warm, and lived in. There were books everywhere and photos on the walls. She loved it there. Her phone rang, and she saw Elena's name flash on the screen. She almost ignored it. But Elena never called unless it was urgent.
Hello?
Elena's voice was frantic. She said Gregory was looking for Victoria. He had an important dinner tonight, and Victoria was supposed to attend. She had completely forgotten about it. Elena said Gregory was furious. He wanted to know where Victoria had been spending all her time.
Tell him I'll be there in 30 minutes.
She hung up and looked at Ryan. He had heard enough to understand.
You have to go.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. I know your life is complicated.
Victoria grabbed her things and headed for the door. Then she turned back.
My father is having a business dinner tonight. I have to be there. But I'll text you later.
Be careful.
She did not understand what he meant until she arrived at the restaurant. It was one of the most exclusive places in the city. Gregory sat at a large table surrounded by executives and investors. He barely looked at her when she sat down. Diane, her mother, was there too. She gave Victoria a tight smile that did not reach her eyes. The dinner was exactly what Victoria had been trying to avoid. Endless talk about market shares and quarterly reports. People laughing at Gregory's jokes even when they were not funny. Victoria felt like she was suffocating. She excused herself and went to the bathroom. Elena followed her. Elena asked if Victoria was okay. She looked concerned. Victoria told her she was fine, just tired. Elena said Gregory had been asking questions about Victoria's schedule. He wanted to know why she had been missing so many events. Victoria felt her heart sink.
What did you tell him?
Elena said she had covered for Victoria. She told Gregory Victoria was meeting with potential donors for the foundation. But Elena warned her that Gregory was suspicious. He would not let it go. Victoria returned to the table. The dinner dragged on for another 2 hours. Finally it ended, and people started leaving. Gregory asked Victoria to stay. Diane left with Thomas, the company lawyer. They needed to discuss something in private. Gregory waited until they were alone. Then he leaned forward. His expression was cold. Gregory asked where Victoria had really been. He said he knew she had not been meeting with donors. He had checked. Victoria felt trapped. She could not tell him about Ryan. Not yet.
I've been taking some time for myself. I needed a break.
Gregory's jaw tightened. He said Victoria did not have the luxury of taking breaks. She was a Chen. People were watching her. Everything she did reflected on the family and the company.
I'm 28 years old. I should be able to have a life outside of work.
Gregory said Victoria's life was the company. Whether she liked it or not. That was the price of being his daughter. He told her to get her priorities straight. Then he left. Victoria sat alone at the table. Her hands were shaking. She felt like the walls were closing in. She pulled out her phone and texted Ryan. I need to see you. 20 minutes later, she was back at his apartment. Ryan opened the door and saw her face. He pulled her inside without a word. Victoria broke down. She told him everything. How trapped she felt. How her father controlled every aspect of her life. How she had no freedom.
You're not trapped. You're choosing to stay.
It's not that simple.
Yes, it is. You're scared of what happens if you walk away. But staying is killing you.
Victoria knew he was right. But the thought of leaving everything behind terrified her. She had never had to fight for anything. Everything had always been handed to her. She did not know if she was strong enough.
What if I fail?
Then you fail. But at least you tried. At least you lived.
They sat on his small couch. Victoria felt exhausted. Ryan put his arm around her. It felt safe there in his tiny apartment. Safer than her penthouse had ever felt. The next few weeks were difficult. Victoria tried to balance her obligations with her growing relationship with Ryan. But it was getting harder to keep the two worlds separate. Gregory was watching her more closely now. Elena reported that he had asked Marcus to look into Victoria's activities. Victoria knew she was running out of time. One afternoon, Victoria met Ryan at a park near the river. It was a beautiful day. Families were having picnics, and kids were playing on the grass. They sat on a bench overlooking the water. Ryan had something he needed to tell her.
There's something you should know about me.
Okay.
He looked nervous. Victoria had never seen him nervous before.
I haven't been completely honest with you.
What do you mean?
The delivery job. It's not my only job. It's not even my real job.
Victoria felt her stomach drop.
Then what is your real job?
Ryan took a deep breath. He told her he was the CEO of a technology company, a startup that had been growing rapidly. He did delivery work 1 or 2 evenings a week to stay connected with regular people, to understand what his customers really needed. He said he should have told her from the beginning, but then things got complicated. Victoria stared at him. Her mind was racing. He was a CEO, not a struggling delivery driver. He had lied to her.
What company?
Nexus Innovations.
Victoria felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her. Nexus Innovations was her father's biggest competitor. They had been locked in a bitter rivalry for 3 years. Gregory hated Nexus and everything it stood for. He said they were stealing his market share with inferior products, so he had vowed to destroy them.
You work for Nexus.
I don't work for Nexus. I am Nexus. I founded it.
Victoria stood up. She felt dizzy. This could not be happening.
You knew who I was.
Not at first. I swear. I only figured it out after we started seeing each other. And by then,
By then what?
By then I cared about you.
Victoria shook her head. She felt like such a fool. Of course, he had known who she was. He probably planned the whole thing. Maybe he thought he could get inside information about her father's company.
I can't believe I trusted you.
Victoria, please let me explain.
Explain what? That you've been using me. That everything between us was a lie.
It wasn't a lie. My feelings for you are real.
Victoria wanted to believe him. But how could she? Her father had been right to be suspicious. Everyone wanted something from her. Even Ryan.
I need to go.
Don't leave like this.
But she was already walking away. She heard him calling after her, but she did not turn around. She got to her car and sat in the driver's seat. Her hands gripped the steering wheel. She felt like screaming. That evening, Victoria sat in her apartment. She had not eaten anything all day. Her phone kept buzzing with texts from Ryan. She ignored them all. Instead, she poured herself a glass of wine and stood at the window. The city looked different now. Less beautiful somehow. She thought about everything that had happened. Part of her was furious at Ryan for lying. But another part understood why he had not told her. If he had revealed his identity right away, she never would have given him a chance. She would have seen him as the enemy. Her father's enemy. But was that fair? Ryan was not her father's enemy. He was just a businessman, trying to build something. The rivalry between the companies had nothing to do with her and Ryan as people. Or did it? Her phone rang. It was Diane. Victoria almost did not answer, but her mother rarely called.
Hello, Mom.
Diane's voice was tense. She said they needed to talk. Victoria should come to the house right away. Gregory had found out something. Victoria felt her blood run cold.
Found out what?
Diane said it was better to discuss in person. Victoria hung up and grabbed her keys. The drive to her parents' house took 20 minutes. Every minute felt like an hour. She pulled up to the massive estate. Security guards waved her through. The house was lit up like a palace. Victoria had grown up here, but it had never felt like home. It was too big, too cold. Just like her father. Diane met her at the door. Her mother looked older somehow. More tired. Diane said Gregory was in his study. He wanted to see Victoria immediately. Diane squeezed Victoria's hand. She told her to stay calm no matter what. Victoria nodded and walked down the long hallway. She knocked on the study door. Gregory's voice told her to enter. She pushed the door open and saw her father sitting behind his massive desk. Thomas the lawyer stood beside him. Both men looked grim. Gregory did not waste time with pleasantries. He said he knew Victoria had been seeing someone. And he knew exactly who that someone was. Victoria felt her heart pounding.
How did you find out?
Gregory said he had hired a private investigator. He showed Victoria a folder full of photos. Her and Ryan at the dive bar. Walking through the park. Sitting on the bench by the river. There were dozens of them. Gregory said he could not believe his own daughter would betray him like this. Victoria felt anger rising in her chest.
Betray you? I'm not betraying anyone. I'm just living my life.
Gregory slammed his hand on the desk. He said Ryan Mitchell was not just anyone. He was the enemy. He had been stealing Gregory's clients and undermining his business. And now he was using Victoria to get closer to the company.
It's not like that.
Gregory said Victoria was naive. Ryan was playing her. He probably knew who she was from the beginning. This was all a game to him. Thomas spoke up. He said they needed to be smart about this. If word got out that Victoria was involved with Nexus's CEO, it would be a disaster. The board would question Gregory's judgment. Competitors would use it against them. They needed to handle this quietly. Gregory agreed. He told Victoria she would stop seeing Ryan immediately. If she refused, he would cut her off. No more apartment, no more money, no more position at the company. She would have nothing.
You can't do that.
Gregory's eyes were cold. Gregory said he could do whatever he wanted. Victoria was his daughter, and she would do as she was told. Or she would be on her own. The choice was hers. Victoria stood there shaking. She looked at her father. This man who had controlled every aspect of her life. Who had never asked what she wanted or how she felt. Who saw her as a pawn in his business empire. For the first time in her life, Victoria made a choice that was entirely her own.
Fine. Cut me off. I don't want your money anymore.
Gregory looked shocked. Even Thomas seemed surprised. Diane had been standing in the doorway. She gasped. Gregory said, Victoria did not mean that. She was angry, but she would come to her senses. Victoria shook her head.
I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I'm done living for you. I'm done being who you want me to be.
She turned and walked out of the study. Diane called after her, but Victoria kept going. She walked out of the house and got in her car. Her hands were still shaking, but she felt lighter somehow. Free. Free. She drove to Ryan's apartment. It was late, but she did not care. She knocked on his door. When he opened it, his eyes widened in surprise.
Victoria.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. I'm sorry I ran away.
You don't have to apologize.
Yes, I do. You were honest with me about everything, and I should have let you explain.
Ryan pulled her inside. They sat down and talked for hours. Ryan told her the whole story. How he had started Nexus in his garage 5 years ago. How he had built it from nothing into a real competitor. How he did delivery work to stay grounded. He said he had recognized her name when he first delivered to her apartment. But he had not known what she looked like. By the time he realized who she was, they had already connected.
I should have told you right away. I know that now. But I was afraid you would disappear.
I almost did.
I'm glad you came back.
Victoria told him about the confrontation with her father. How Gregory had given her an ultimatum. How she had chosen to walk away from everything.
Are you sure about this? You're giving up a lot.
I'm giving up things that never made me happy. And I'm choosing something that does.
They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ryan took her hand.
So what happens now?
I don't know. But I want to figure it out with you.
Victoria knew the road ahead would not be easy. Her father would not forgive her quickly. The business rivalry between Chen Technologies and Nexus would make things complicated. But for the first time in her life, she felt like she was making her own choices. And that was worth more than all the money and security her father could offer. The next morning, Victoria woke up on Ryan's couch. Sunlight streamed through the small window. She felt disoriented for a moment. Then everything from the night before came rushing back. She had walked away from her family, from her inheritance, from everything she had ever known. Ryan appeared with 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one and sat down beside her.
How are you feeling?
Terrified, but also relieved.
That makes sense.
Victoria's phone had been buzzing all morning. Messages from Elena. Calls from Diane. Nothing from Gregory. She was not surprised. Her father did not beg. He expected people to come back to him.
I need to figure out what to do next. I have some money saved but not enough to live on for long.
You could work at Nexus.
Victoria looked at him. The idea was tempting, but also complicated.
Wouldn't that make things worse with my father?
Things are already as bad as they can get. And you're smart. You know the industry. We could use someone like you.
Victoria thought about it. Working at Nexus would be the ultimate betrayal in her father's eyes. But maybe that ship had already sailed. And Ryan was right. She did know the industry. She had been working in it her whole life. Just never for herself.
Okay. But I don't want special treatment. I want to earn my place.
Deal.
Over the next few weeks, Victoria started working at Nexus. It was nothing like Chen Technologies. The office was smaller and less formal. People wore jeans and t-shirts instead of suits. There were no corner offices or executive dining rooms. Everyone ate lunch together in a common area. Victoria started in the marketing department. She had to prove herself from scratch. Some employees were skeptical at first. They knew who her father was. But Victoria worked harder than anyone else. She stayed late and came in early. Slowly, she earned their respect. Marcus, Ryan's business partner, was particularly wary. He worried that Victoria was a spy for her father. Ryan assured him she was not. But Marcus kept his distance. One day Marcus cornered Victoria in the break room. He said he had done some research on her. He knew she had never held a real job before. He wanted to know what she was really doing at Nexus. Victoria looked him straight in the eye. She told him she was there because she wanted to build something real. Something that mattered. She was tired of living in her father's shadow. Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Marcus said he would give her a chance. But if she betrayed Ryan, or the company, he would make sure she regretted it. Victoria understood. She would have felt the same way, in his position. As Victoria settled into her new life, the war between Chen Technologies and Nexus intensified. Gregory launched an aggressive campaign to discredit Nexus. He spread rumors about their products. He poached their employees. He even tried to block their access to key suppliers. Thomas called Victoria one afternoon. He said Gregory wanted to meet. Victoria was suspicious, but Thomas insisted it was important. Reluctantly, she agreed. They met at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop downtown. Gregory sat at a corner table, looking older than Victoria remembered. When she sat down, he did not smile. Gregory said he was disappointed in her, but he was willing to forgive everything if she came back. All she had to do was leave Nexus and Ryan. She could have her old life back. Victoria felt a pang of something. Not quite sadness, but close.
I can't do that.
Gregory's expression hardened. He said she was making a terrible mistake. Ryan was using her. Once he got what he wanted from her, he would throw her away. Victoria shook her head.
You don't know him.
Gregory said he knew men like Ryan. Ambitious men who would do anything to get ahead. Victoria was just a means to an end.
That's not true.
Gregory leaned forward. He said Victoria had no idea what the real world was like. She had been sheltered her entire life. Now she was going to learn a hard lesson. Victoria stood up. She told her father she was sorry he felt that way. But she had made her choice. She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. As she drove away, she felt tears on her cheeks. But she did not regret her decision. Back at Nexus, things were getting tense. Chen Technologies had just announced a major new product. It was almost identical to something Nexus had been developing. Ryan suspected there was a leak. Marcus called an emergency meeting. He said they needed to find out who was feeding information to Chen. Everyone was a suspect. Eyes turned to Victoria. She felt her stomach sink. Marcus said it was quite a coincidence. Chen Technologies stole their idea right after Victoria joined. Maybe she was not as loyal as she claimed. Victoria felt anger rising.
I would never do that.
I know you wouldn't.
But Marcus was not convinced. He said they needed proof. Until then, Victoria should be restricted from sensitive projects. Ryan argued, but Marcus stood firm. It was a matter of company security. Victoria left the meeting feeling humiliated. Ryan followed her.
I'm sorry. Marcus is just being cautious.
He thinks I'm a spy.
He doesn't trust easily, but we'll figure out who the real leak is.
Victoria nodded, but she felt discouraged. She had given up everything to be here. And now her own colleagues suspected her. Maybe her father was right. Maybe she did not belong in this world. That evening, Victoria went back to Ryan's apartment. She felt defeated. Ryan made dinner, and they ate in silence. Finally, Ryan spoke.
I hired a security firm to investigate the leak. They'll find out who it is.
What if they don't? What if everyone always suspects me?
Then we'll deal with it together.
Victoria appreciated his support. But she knew this situation was straining their relationship. Business rivalry between their families was poisoning everything. 2 days later, the security firm delivered their report. The leak was not Victoria. It was a senior engineer named Kevin, who had been secretly working with Chen Technologies. He had been feeding them information for months, in exchange for money. Marcus called another meeting, and apologized to Victoria. She accepted his apology, but the damage had been done. The situation with her father continued to deteriorate. Gregory tried everything to destroy Nexus. He cut them off from suppliers. He filed frivolous lawsuits. He even contacted Victoria's former friends and told them to avoid her. Diane called Victoria one night in tears. She said Gregory had forbidden her from seeing Victoria. She was sorry, but she had to obey her husband. Victoria felt a deep sadness. She had known her father would fight back, but she had not expected him to be so cruel. Ryan tried to keep Victoria's spirits up, but the stress was taking its toll on both of them. Nexus was losing money because of Gregory's attacks. Ryan had to lay off employees, people who had believed in the company, who had worked so hard. Victoria felt responsible. If she had never gotten involved with Ryan, none of this would be happening. She told him as much one night.
That's not true. Your father was already trying to destroy us. This just gave him another weapon.
I made things worse.
You made things better for me, knowing you made everything worthwhile.
Victoria wanted to believe him, but she wondered if their relationship could survive all this pressure. They barely saw each other anymore. They were both working constantly, trying to keep Nexus afloat. When they did spend time together, they were too exhausted to really connect. One Saturday evening, Victoria convinced Ryan to take a break. They went back to the dive bar, where they had their first real date. It felt like a lifetime ago. They sat in the same booth and ordered the same food, but everything felt different now.
Do you ever wish we had never met?
Never.
Even with everything that's happened?
Especially with everything that's happened. You made me believe in something more than just business success.
Victoria reached across the table and took his hand. They sat there in the noisy bar, surrounded by people who had no idea who they were. For a moment, it felt like the beginning again, when everything was simple and full of possibility. The next morning brought new challenges. Ryan received a call from the bank. Chen Technologies had convinced their main creditor to pull funding. Nexus was running out of money fast. Marcus called an emergency board meeting. The situation was dire. Victoria sat in on the meeting. She watched as Ryan tried to reassure the board members. But even she could see the strain on his face. They needed a major investor, and they needed one quickly. Otherwise, Nexus would have to shut down within 3 months. After the meeting, Victoria stayed behind. She had an idea, but she was not sure Ryan would like it.
What if we reached out to international investors? People my father can't influence.
We've tried. They're all too scared to go against Chen Technologies.
Not all of them. I know someone in Singapore. Her name is Sarah. She and my father had a falling out years ago. She might be willing to help.
Ryan looked at her with a mix of hope and exhaustion.
Can you set up a meeting?
I'll try.
Victoria made the call that afternoon. Sarah answered on the third ring. It had been 5 years since they last spoke. Sarah had been her mother's friend before the falling out. Victoria explained the situation carefully. Sarah listened without interrupting. When Victoria finished, there was a long pause. Then Sarah said she would need to see Nexus's financials, and she would need to meet Ryan in person. But she was interested. Very interested. Victoria felt a surge of relief. Sarah flew in the following week. Victoria picked her up from the airport herself. Sarah looked exactly as Victoria remembered. Sharp eyes, and an even sharper mind. They drove directly to Nexus headquarters. Ryan gave Sarah a complete tour. He showed her everything. The development labs. The production facilities. The team. Sarah asked tough questions. Ryan answered all of them honestly. Victoria watched the exchange with growing admiration. Ryan never oversold or made false promises. He simply presented the facts. After 3 hours, Sarah asked to speak with Victoria alone. They went to a quiet conference room. Sarah studied Victoria for a moment. Sarah said she could see Victoria had changed. The girl she remembered would never have walked away from her father's empire. Victoria said she had finally figured out what mattered. Sarah smiled. Sarah said she would invest, but on one condition. Chen Technologies and Nexus needed to find a way to coexist. This endless war was destroying both companies. And it was destroying Victoria's family. Sarah wanted Victoria to try one more time to reach her father.
He won't listen to me.
Sarah said Victoria had to try anyway. Some bridges were worth rebuilding, no matter how much effort it took. Victoria agreed reluctantly. That evening, Victoria called her mother. Diane answered immediately. She said she had been hoping Victoria would call. Victoria asked if Diane could arrange a meeting with Gregory. Diane hesitated, then said she would try. 3 days later, Victoria found herself back at her father's house. But this time she felt different. Stronger somehow. She was not here to beg or apologize. She was here to propose a solution. Gregory sat in his study. He looked tired. The war with Nexus was taking its toll on him too. Victoria sat down across from him. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Finally, Victoria broke the silence. She told Gregory she had found an investor for Nexus. Sarah from Singapore. Gregory's expression tightened at the name. Gregory said Sarah was a fool. She was throwing money away on a dying company. Victoria shook her head.
Nexus isn't dying. It's growing despite everything you've done to stop it.
Gregory said Victoria was naive. Nexus would never survive against Chen Technologies. Victoria took a deep breath.
What if they didn't have to compete? What if they worked together?
Gregory stared at her. Then he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. Gregory said, Victoria must be joking. He would never work with Ryan Mitchell. Victoria had expected this reaction.
Then you're going to lose. Nexus has innovations you need. You have resources they need. Together, you could dominate the market. Apart, you'll both keep bleeding money.
Gregory's expression changed slightly. Victoria could see he was actually considering IT. But his pride was in the way. Gregory said, even if he wanted to work with Nexus, which he did not, the board would never approve it. Victoria leaned forward.
The board will approve anything that makes them money. You know that.
Gregory stood up and walked to the window. He stood there for a long time. Victoria waited. Finally, he turned back. Gregory said he would think about it. But he made no promises. Victoria knew that was the best she could hope for. She stood to leave. At the door, she paused.
I miss you, Dad.
Gregory's expression softened for just a moment. Then he nodded. Victoria left feeling like maybe there was hope after all. Over the next few weeks, Victoria shuttled between her father and Ryan. It was exhausting work. Both men were stubborn. Both had been hurt by the rivalry. But slowly she began to see progress. Diane called Victoria one evening. She said Gregory had been different lately. Quieter. More thoughtful. He'd been looking at old photos of Victoria as a child. Diane thought he was reconsidering things. Meanwhile, Ryan was also changing his mind. Marcus had run the numbers. A partnership with Chen Technologies would solve most of their financial problems, and it would allow them to expand faster than they ever could alone. But Ryan worried about losing control of his company. Victoria sat with Ryan in his office late one night. Papers were spread across his desk. He looked overwhelmed.
What's the worst that could happen?
Your father takes over. Nexus becomes just another division of Chen Technologies. Everything I built disappears.
That won't happen. We can structure the deal to protect your autonomy.
You sound like a lawyer.
I've been talking to Thomas. He actually thinks this could work.
Ryan looked surprised. Thomas was Gregory's lawyer. If he supported the idea, maybe Gregory was serious. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Diane invited both Victoria and Ryan to dinner. She said it was time for the family to meet properly. Ryan was hesitant, but Victoria convinced him. They arrived at the estate on a Saturday evening. Diane greeted them warmly. Gregory was already there. He shook Ryan's hand stiffly. The dinner started awkwardly. They made small talk about the weather and the food. No one mentioned business. Diane tried her best to keep the conversation flowing. But the tension was thick. Then Gregory did something unexpected. He asked Ryan about his background, how he had started Nexus, what his vision was. Ryan answered honestly. He talked about wanting to create technology that helped ordinary people, not just corporations and governments. Gregory listened carefully. Then he said he had started Chen Technologies with a similar vision. But somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of it. The company had become about power and market share, not about innovation. Victoria felt tears in her eyes. It was the most honest she had ever heard her father be. Diane reached over and squeezed Gregory's hand. By the end of the evening, the mood had shifted completely. Gregory and Ryan were actually talking like colleagues, not enemies. They discussed possible collaboration areas, ways their companies could complement each other. Victoria watched in amazement. As they were leaving, Gregory pulled Victoria aside. He said he was sorry. For everything. For trying to control her life. For threatening to cut her off. For not listening to what she wanted. Victoria hugged him. It was the first real hug they had shared in years. The merger negotiations took 3 months. Lawyers from both sides worked around the clock. Victoria helped coordinate between the teams. It was complex work. Both companies had to give up something to gain more. Finally, they reached an agreement. Nexus and Chen Technologies would merge into a new entity. Chen Mitchell Technologies. Ryan would be Chief Innovation Officer. Gregory would be Executive Chairman. They would share decision-making equally. The announcement made headlines. Business analysts were shocked. No one had seen it coming. Some called it brilliant. Others called it risky. But everyone agreed it changed the game. The day the merger was finalized, Victoria and Ryan stood on the balcony of Nexus headquarters. Well, it was not Nexus anymore. It was Chen Mitchell Technologies now. Below them, employees from both companies were mixing, getting to know each other.
We actually did it.
We actually did it.
Your father called me this morning. He wants to have lunch next week. Just the two of us.
That's good.
I think he's trying.
He is. It's not easy for him, but he's trying.
Ryan turned to face her.
None of this would have happened without you. You brought us together.
I just wanted my family and the person I love to stop destroying each other.
Ryan smiled. Then, his expression grew serious.
About that, the person you love thing.
Yes.
He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Victoria's heart started racing.
I know the timing might seem crazy. We've been through so much, but I don't want to wait anymore. Victoria Chen, will you marry me?
Victoria felt tears streaming down her face. She nodded.
Yes. Absolutely yes.
Ryan slipped the ring on her finger. It was simple and beautiful. Nothing flashy or ostentatious. Just like him. They kissed as the sun set over the city. But their happiness was tested sooner than expected. 6 weeks after the merger was finalized, a problem emerged. Some of the original Nexus employees felt sidelined. They worried Chen Technologies people were taking over. Marcus came to Ryan with complaints. Marcus said the Chen Technologies people were used to doing things a certain way. They were not listening to Nexus ideas. The innovation that made Nexus special was being smothered. Ryan knew he had to address this quickly. Ryan called a company-wide meeting. Employees from both sides filled the main conference hall. There was tension in the air. People sat in separate groups. Chen on one side, Nexus on the other. Ryan stood at the front. Victoria sat in the audience. She could see people watching her, wondering whose side she was on.
I know the last few weeks have been difficult. Change is always hard. But I want to remind everyone why we did this. We did it because together we are stronger.
Someone from the old Nexus side called out. They said it did not feel like a merger. It felt like a takeover. Ryan did not get defensive.
I hear you. And you're right to be concerned. We need to do better at integrating both cultures. Starting today, I'm creating mixed teams. Every project will have people from both companies. No more us versus them.
Gregory stood up from where he was sitting. Everyone turned to look at him. He walked to the front and stood beside Ryan. Gregory said he agreed completely. He admitted Chen Technologies had been dominant for too long. They had become complacent. Nexus brought fresh energy and innovation. Chen Technologies people needed to learn from that, not suppress it. The room was silent. Then, someone from the Chen Technologies side started clapping. Others joined in. Soon, the entire room was applauding. Victoria felt proud of both men. After the meeting, the atmosphere improved significantly. People started mixing more, collaborating instead of competing. Victoria organized social events to help break down barriers. It was slow work, but it was working. 3 months later, Victoria and Ryan got married. It was a small ceremony. Just close family and friends. Diane cried happy tears. Gregory walked Victoria down the aisle. As he placed her hand in Ryan's, he whispered something. Gregory said he was wrong about Ryan. He was a good man, and he would take care of Victoria. Ryan squeezed Victoria's hand. The ceremony was beautiful and simple. At the reception, Elena gave a toast. She said she had watched Victoria transform over the past year, from someone going through the motions of life to someone truly living. Elena said Victoria taught everyone an important lesson. Sometimes you have to risk everything to find what really matters. Victoria looked around the room. Her parents were sitting together, actually talking and laughing. Ryan was chatting with Marcus and Thomas, 2 men who had been suspicious of each other months ago. Everything had changed so much. But the biggest challenge was still ahead. 6 months after the wedding, Victoria discovered she was pregnant too. She was terrified and excited at the same time. She told Ryan one evening. He picked her up and spun her around, then carefully set her down.
We're having a baby.
We're having a baby.
They told her parents the following week. Diane burst into tears again. Gregory was quieter, but Victoria could see he was emotional. He said he hoped to be a better grandfather than he had been a father. Victoria told him he was already getting better as a father. The pregnancy forced Victoria to slow down. She had been working constantly at Chen Mitchell Technologies. Now she had to delegate more. It was difficult at first. She was used to being involved in everything. But she discovered something surprising. When she stepped back, other people stepped up. The company did not fall apart without her constant presence. In fact, some things actually improved. Diane started spending more time with Victoria. They went shopping for baby things together. They talked about everything. Diane shared stories about when Victoria was born. How Gregory had been terrified of holding her at first. How he had loved her so fiercely.
I never knew that.
Diane said Gregory was not good at showing his feelings. But that did not mean he did not have them. He had just been scared of losing control. Of losing Victoria. Victoria understood that now. 7 months into her pregnancy, Victoria went into early labor. Ryan rushed her to the hospital. Diane and Gregory arrived shortly after. The labor was long and difficult. Victoria was exhausted. But finally, she heard the most beautiful sound. A baby crying. The nurse placed a tiny girl in her arms. Victoria looked down at her daughter. She had Ryan's eyes. The baby stopped crying and looked up at her mother. Ryan stood beside the bed, tears running down his face. He kissed Victoria's forehead.
She's perfect.
She is.
They named her Sophia. Gregory and Diane came in to meet their granddaughter. Gregory held Sophia carefully. His hands were shaking slightly. He looked at Victoria. Gregory said he was so proud of her. Not just for giving him a grandchild, but for having the courage to forge her own path. For teaching him that there was more to life than business. Victoria felt her heart swell. Over the next year, life settled into a new rhythm. Victoria worked part-time from home. Ryan balanced his responsibilities at Chen Mitchell with being a father. They were both exhausted most of the time, but happy. Sophia grew quickly. She was a curious baby, always reaching for things, always wanting to explore. Gregory visited at least twice a week. He was a devoted grandfather. One afternoon, Victoria and Ryan took Sophia to the park. The same park where Ryan had told her the truth about who he was. So much had changed since that day. They sat on a bench watching Sophia sleep in her stroller.
Do you remember when we sat here before?
I thought I had lost you that day.
You almost did.
I'm glad you came back.
Victoria leaned against him. She thought about everything they had been through. The lies and revelations. The family conflict. The business war. Somehow they had survived it all.
I think my father is actually happy now.
He called me yesterday. He wants Sophia to have his old teddy bear. The one he had when he was a child.
Really?
He said every Chen needs a good teddy bear.
Victoria smiled. Her father was still learning how to express affection. But he was trying. That was what mattered. Chen Mitchell Technologies continued to grow. The merger that everyone had called risky turned out to be brilliant. Within 2 years they became the dominant player in the market. Not by destroying competitors, but by innovation and collaboration. Ryan implemented programs to help employees from both backgrounds. There were still tensions sometimes. Old habits died hard. But overall, the culture was positive. Victoria returned to work full-time when Sophia turned 2. She took on a new role as Director of Corporate Social Responsibility. She wanted Chen Mitchell to be more than just profitable. She wanted it to make a real difference. She started programs to help underprivileged kids learn technology skills. She pushed for environmental initiatives. She made sure the company treated employees fairly. It was fulfilling work. Work that mattered. One evening, Victoria and Ryan hosted a dinner party. Her parents came. Marcus and his wife came. Elena came with her new boyfriend. Thomas came with his husband. They all sat around the table in Victoria and Ryan's home. Sophia was showing everyone her new toys. As Victoria looked around the table, she felt overwhelmed with gratitude. These people had all been adversaries or strangers at one point. Now they were family, not just by blood, but by choice and shared experience. After dinner, Gregory asked to speak with Victoria privately. They went out to the balcony. The city lights sparkled below them. Gregory cleared his throat. Gregory said he wanted to retire next year. He was 70 now. It was time. He wanted Ryan to take over as CEO. Victoria, as president. They could lead Chen Mitchell into the future. Victoria felt a rush of emotion.
Are you sure?
Gregory said he had never been more sure of anything. He trusted them completely. Victoria hugged her father tight. But before the transition could happen, a new challenge emerged. A scandal broke at one of Chen Mitchell's overseas facilities. Workers were being treated poorly. Wages were below standard. Conditions were unsafe. The news spread quickly. Victoria felt sick when she heard about it. This was exactly what she had been trying to prevent. But the facility had been operating independently, without proper oversight. Ryan called an emergency meeting. They needed to address this immediately. Victoria volunteered to go to the facility herself. Ryan wanted to come, but someone needed to stay and handle the media. Gregory offered to go with Victoria. She was surprised but grateful. They flew out the next day. The facility was in a remote area. When they arrived, Victoria was shocked by what she saw. The building was run down. Workers looked exhausted and underpaid. The manager tried to make excuses. Gregory cut him off. He said this was unacceptable. The manager would be fired immediately. They would shut down the facility until conditions met their standards. Then they would reopen with better pay and better treatment. Victoria spent the next week working with workers and local officials. They developed a plan to improve everything. It would cost millions, but it was the right thing to do. When she returned home, the media coverage had intensified. Some people praised Chen Mitchell for taking responsibility. Others said it was too little, too late. Victoria held a press conference. She stood in front of cameras and admitted they had failed. They had not been vigilant enough, but they were committed to making it right. Not just at this one facility, but at all their locations worldwide. She announced new oversight programs and worker protections. The response was mixed, but over time people saw they were serious about change. The scandal that could have destroyed the company ended up making it stronger. They proved they would stand by their values, even when it was costly. A year later, Gregory officially retired. There was a huge celebration. Employees from both the old Chen Technologies and the old Nexus came together. They shared stories and memories. Gregory gave a speech. Gregory said when he started his company 40 years ago, he thought success meant being the biggest and the strongest. But his daughter had taught him that real success meant building something that made the world better. He said he was leaving Chen Mitchell in good hands. Ryan and Victoria took over as key CEOs. They made a great team. Ryan focused on innovation and product development. Victoria focused on operations and social impact. They made decisions together. Sometimes they disagreed, but they always found a way forward. Sophia started kindergarten. She was bright and curious like her parents' side. She asked endless questions about everything. Victoria loved watching her daughter discover the world. One Saturday morning, Victoria took Sophia to the dive bar where she and Ryan had their first real date. It was still there, still serving the best food in the city. The owner recognized Victoria immediately. The owner said he had been reading about Victoria in the news. He was proud of what she had accomplished. Victoria introduced him to Sophia. He gave Sophia a free cookie. They sat in the same booth Victoria and Ryan had sat in years ago. Sophia asked her mother how she had met Daddy. Victoria smiled. She told Sophia the story about how she had been lost and unhappy, how a kind delivery driver had shown her there was another way to live. Sophia listened with wide eyes. Sophia asked if Daddy was still a delivery driver. Victoria laughed and said no, but he still visited with customers sometimes, to remember what really mattered. Sophia nodded seriously, like she understood. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Ryan surprised Victoria. He had arranged for them to spend a weekend away, just the two of them. Diane and Gregory would watch Sophia. They went to a cabin in the mountains. No phones, no internet, no work, just theme. They hiked and cooked meals together. They talked about their dreams for the future. They made love like they had all the time in the world. On their last night, there they sat by a fire. Victoria leaned against Ryan's shoulder.
Do you ever think about how different our lives could have been?
All the time.
What if you had never delivered food to my apartment that night?
then I would have found another way to meet you. Some things are just meant to be.
Victoria smiled. She believed that against all odds they had found each other. And they had built something beautiful. Not just a company, but a life, a family, a future. Back in the city, Chen Mitchell Technologies continued to thrive. The company was now worth billions. But more importantly, it was making a real difference. Their technology helped schools in poor neighborhoods. It helped hospitals in rural areas. It helped small businesses compete with larger ones. Victoria and Ryan made sure the company never lost sight of its values. They paid employees well. They invested in communities. They prioritized innovation over profit. And somehow they still made plenty of profit. Marcus retired after 7 successful years at Chen Mitchell. He said he wanted to travel with his wife. Before he left, he pulled Victoria aside. He said he owed her an apology for doubting her in the beginning, for thinking she was a spy. Victoria said there was nothing to forgive. She understood why he had been suspicious. Marcus said she had proved herself 1,000 times over. She was one of the best leaders he had ever worked with. Victoria hugged him. His approval meant more than she could say. Diane and Gregory were closer than they had been in years. The stress of the business rivalry had taken a toll on their marriage. But now that pressure was gone. They took trips together. They spent time with Sophia. They seemed happy. Gregory told Victoria one day that walking away from her was the best thing she ever did. It forced him to examine his own life, to realize what he had been missing. Victoria said it was the hardest decision she had ever made, but also the best. Elena got married to the boyfriend she had brought to the dinner party. Victoria was the maid of honor. At the wedding, Elena gave a speech. She said Victoria had inspired her to take chances, to stop playing it safe. Elena had quit her job at her father's law firm. Now she worked for a nonprofit. She made less money, but she was happier. As Sophia grew older, she showed interest in how things work. She took apart toys to see their mechanisms. She asked Ryan to explain technology to her. Ryan taught her to code when she was 7. She loved it. Victoria wondered if Sophia would follow in their footsteps, but she also knew it did not matter. Sophia would find her own path, just like Victoria had, and they would support her, no matter what. 10 years after the merger, Chen Mitchell Technologies was the most respected company in the industry, not just for their products, but for how they treated people, how they gave back to communities, how they balanced profit with purpose. Ryan and Victoria were featured on magazine covers. They gave speeches at conferences. They were held up as examples of successful leadership. But at home, they were just mom and dad, making breakfast, helping with homework, reading bedtime stories. One evening, Victoria and Ryan attended a gala. It was similar to the ones Victoria used to hate, but this time was different. They were there because they wanted to be, not because they had to be. They were supporting a cause they believed in. During the event, a young woman approached Victoria. She said Victoria's story had inspired her. She was from a wealthy family. Her parents expected her to take over the family business. But she wanted something different. She wanted to know how Victoria had found the courage.
I realized that living someone else's dream was a waste of my life. It's scary to disappoint people, especially people you love. But it's scarier to look back and realize you never really lived.
The young woman thanked her. Victoria watched her walk away. She hoped the woman would find her own courage, her own path. Years continued to pass. Sophia graduated high school, then college. She studied engineering and business. She did an internship at Chen Mitchell, but she also interned at other companies. She wanted to gain different perspectives. When Sophia was 25, she came home with an announcement. She wanted to start her own company. Victoria and Ryan looked at each other and smiled. Of course she did. Sophia said she appreciated everything Chen Mitchell was, but she wanted to build something from scratch. She wanted her own journey. Ryan said he understood completely. Victoria hugged her daughter tight. They invested in Sophia's startup, but they did not interfere. They let her make her own decisions, her own mistakes, her own successes. Gregory was in his 80s now. Still sharp, but slower. He spent most of his time with Diane, traveling and enjoying retirement. But he still called Victoria every week. They talked about business and family. Their relationship had healed completely. One afternoon, Gregory told Victoria a story about how he had almost lost everything once. When Chen Technologies was just starting, he had been so focused on success, so afraid of failure, that he had pushed everyone away, including Diane. Gregory said Diane had almost left him. That was his wake-up call. He realized success meant nothing if you were alone. He changed his ways, built a real relationship with his wife. But with Victoria, he had made the same mistakes again.
But we fixed it.
Gregory smiled. Gregory said Victoria had fixed it by being brave enough to walk away, by showing him what really mattered. He said he was grateful every day that she had not given up on him. Victoria felt tears in her eyes. She told her father she loved him. He said he loved her too. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching Sophia in the garden with her own daughter, Victoria's first grandchild. Life had come full circle. Victoria thought about that lonely woman in the penthouse, staring out at the city, feeling empty despite having everything. She was grateful she had taken that risk, had ordered that food delivery, had opened her heart to Ryan. None of it had been easy. There had been pain and conflict and uncertainty, but all of it had been worth it. Every struggle had led her here, to a life filled with love and purpose and meaning. Chen Mitchell Technologies would outlast them all. It would continue making a difference long after they were gone. But the real legacy was not the company. It was the relationships they had built, the lives they had touched, the courage they had shown. Victoria learned that the bravest thing you can do is choose your own path, even when everyone expects you to follow theirs, even when it costs you everything, because what you gain is yourself, and that is worth more than any inheritance or title or amount of money. She also learned that love is not about perfection. It is about showing up even when things are hard. It is about choosing each other every day. It is about building something together that is bigger than either person alone. And she learned that family is not just about blood. It is about who stands by you, who fights for you, who believes in you even when you do not believe in yourself. As the sun set that evening, Victoria stood with Ryan on their balcony. They were older now, gray hair and laugh lines, but their hands still fit together perfectly. Below them, the city sparkled. The same city that had once felt like a prison, now felt like home.
No regrets.
Not a single one.
They stood there together. Two people who had taken an impossible chance, who had defied expectations, who had built something beautiful against all odds. And as the last light faded from the sky, they knew their story would inspire others to be brave, to choose love, to forge their own path, no matter the cost. How did you enjoy today's story? Please leave a rating from 1 to 10. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have a similar experience or personal story, feel free to share it in the comments. Your engagement greatly helps the growth and longevity of this channel. If you subscribe, you'll receive new stories every day. We hope today's episode brought richness to your day. Thank you for watching.